So the perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 16 inches more than the perimeter of a square, and the side of the triangle is 7 inches longer than the side of the square. Find the side of the triangle. Now this one, the reason why sometimes it's difficult to get rolling is because you can't decide, do I want to label by the square's side length or do I want to label by the triangle's side length? I'm going to tell you it doesn't matter which one you label, but choose one and make sure you're consistent after that. So did you draw a picture, by the way, when you did it? Okay, so you obviously drew a picture then. And you know what an equilateral triangle looks like. It's, if you don't remember, it's the triangle where all three sides are equal or the same length. Equilateral, equal sides. So I'll draw something that looks decent. Okay, don't label that yet. Let's get a perspective on that square. The square is, well, squares are automatically all the same side lengths. So would this be a good picture for this square based on the information, or would this one be better? This one or the first one? Why this one? Because the triangle is supposed to be bigger in perimeter size, right? So first of all, get a good picture. That's going to help you keep a perspective, a decent picture if you can. And then let's write down what the original statement said. The perimeter of the triangle, and I'm going to denote that with a P and a little triangle symbol right there. Okay? Is, that's equals, 16 inches more than the perimeter of the square. So I'm going to write down the perimeter of the square. So right now, this math expression, equation says that they're equal. They're clearly not equal, right? They're not equal. But I didn't finish writing what I was supposed to write, which was it's 16 inches more than, and I'll just change the color up there, 16 inches more than. That means I add that to the size of the square, and that should total the size of the triangle's perimeter. That's the expression we want to eventually create. Let me just go ahead and move it down. But before we can answer this and create this, since we don't have the numbers, we've got to create it abstractly. So let's create this abstractly, either calling the side length of the triangle x, and then this would be x, 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 or the side length of the square x, and then this would be x, 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 x. What do you want to do? Do you want to name it? Do you want to name the side of the triangle, or do you want to name the side of the square? So one person says triangle, one person says square. You know what I would say? Based on the way it's written, reading this relationship, it says the side of the triangle is 7 inches longer than the side of the square. I would label it based on the square. You don't have to, but then I can go like this. I can label this x, and I usually like to label things by the smaller item, because then I label this one x plus 7. If I went the other way and labeled this one x, the side length of the triangle, then I'd have to label this x minus 7 for each side, and that gets messy. Does that make sense? Now we got to somehow start expressing perimeter, right? How do you figure out the perimeter of a triangle? You add them all. So the perimeter of the triangle, equilateral triangle, is just the sum of all of them. In other words, 3 of the same thing. X plus 7 plus x plus 7 plus x plus 7. Right, so in other words, like you said, 3x plus 21. Okay, next. How do you express the perimeter of a square? You just add them all up. And that's true in general. Parameters just add the distance around. But let's do the shorthand. The shorthand is, since it's a special figure, it's a square, it's just 4x. And this is the same x we're using because of the way we represented the relationship. When it said that the side length of the triangle is 7 more than the side length of the square, which is what we read up here, it is the same x. So now we can come over here and figure this thing out. The perimeter of this is 3x plus 21. That's supposed to be equal to 16 more than the perimeter of the square, and the perimeter of the square is 4x. So yeah, then I'll subtract 3x from both sides. You don't necessarily need to show that. You can just do it in your mind. But I'll subtract 16 also from both sides to isolate. And I get my answer is going to be, what, 5? Yeah. 5 is the missing x. But that's not my answer to the question, is it? No. 5 is the missing x, which is the square side. So then I can come over here and I can plug in x. And I get that 5 plus 7, x plus 7 equals 12. And that's why the answer was 12. So I'm not sure how you got 18, but maybe you got the answer and you were solving for the triangle side already, and you had the triangle side, and then you added it to its, let's see if that would have worked. If you had 12, and then you added 5 to 12, that would have been 17. I don't know where the 18 came from.
Well, when you use the help thingy, it has like a different formula. Yeah, that's why yeah. So I don't think I used it right.
But does this help? You feel comfortable? Figure out that x, realize that that's not what you're solving for this one. And I could change it up a little bit. Solving for this. So you come back, plug in, and you got it. Good. Any others?
15.
Oh, I better stop.